All right, man. Let's talk about Overwatch 2. Recently, they had a beta trying to show it off to the people, get some feedback. It's been, what, like 2-3 years in development, I believe. 5v5, no longer 6v6. New character, Sword Jorn, whatever her name is. She's like the friend of, or the teammate of Soldier 76. New game mode where instead of pushing the payload, now you can push and pull the payload. How we feeling about this, Ethos?
Why did you pick me first? No, ask Golden Boy.
Matter of fact, yeah, you're the esports guy. Yeah, you're the esports guy. How are we feeling about Overwatch 2, the beta?
Yeah. No, it's I think well, firstly, I think the thing that kind of needs to be cleared up first is that like a lot of people were going into this expecting this to be like Overwatch 2, right? Like if that makes sense, like an actual like true to life sequel. This is more of an update. Because and partly because of the Overwatch League, they had to, they needed to do something different because if they kept using the original Overwatch, like the viewers were tanking. It simply just wasn't appealing to, like watch, because at that point the meta has kind of been set in stone. So now that this new update's out and we have 5v5 and we have a new a hero to boot, like it really does create kind of like the feeling you had when the game first came out. Like you don't really know what the strategies are. What is the meta compositions? Who are going to be the heroes you like absolutely need to have? And I'm sure like as the pros continue to break it all down, like that's just going to become more and more of a constant. And we're going to know like, okay, yeah, this is the way to play the game, quote unquote. But that being said, it's nice to kind of feel like we're getting something, new again. Because, to be fair, Overwatch has been in a content drought for like 2.5 years, which is Blizzard's fault. And, it's nice that they're releasing stuff now, but I think the fear of the community right now is like, are they going to keep releasing stuff, or are they just kind of going to do the same crap that they did last time? So as far as like the game goes, it's fun to play. I enjoy it. I think 1 tank, 5 players was the right direction for it to go in. Tanks are super important now, but your aim is also important. The biggest thing was that they removed stuns from the game, which is probably like the biggest change, because that was the part of the game that everyone hated to play. It's very jarring to play a first-person shooter and then get stunned and not be able to move your crosshair, to be able to move your character. It works in MOBAs, but it doesn't work in a first-person shooter. So I'm just glad that they removed that element from it, and hopefully it just leads to like more dynamic gameplay. But I would say right now, like if you like Overwatch and you liked Overwatch 1, you're really gonna like this. There's nothing really, changing for you. If you were skeptical on Overwatch 1, but now, with this new update, I would encourage you to give it a try. And if you always hated Overwatch for its chaotic gameplay, then it's still chaotic. So it's definitely not for you. So same rules still apply.
Yeah, I do like the change of the 5v5 versus the 6. That's the one positive I would put. Like that was the first thing that I noticed. It did feel less chaotic compared to the original Overwatch. It made it feel almost more like a more traditional MOBA, because usually in MOBAs you only run 1 tank. So it puts more emphasis on somebody needs to tank correctly, and then the damage output. It's not enough content here. I'm okay with them just calling it an update. Other than the only thing I can wrap my brain around why they're calling it Overwatch 2 is for marketing purposes. But I feel like
it's the PvE. There's a big PvE campaign that's coming. Course. That is Overwatch 2.
But here's the issue with that then. Overwatch is known more so for the PvP. That's what people are looking forward to. I think if they would have had at least three new characters, 3 to 5, I think on top of like the PvP, it just doesn't feel like there's enough meat and potatoes in terms of the changes. Because I felt right at home. I was like, I feel like I played this already. Like it's just not enough there to appeal to the casual. And what I think kind of proves what you were saying kind of proves what I was thinking. Everything you said pertains more so to the pro crowd. And the PvE, sure, that'll appeal to the casuals, but you still got to get the casuals on the multiplayer too to keep the game healthy and alive, because you don't just need pro players. You need above average players and casuals to actually want to watch the game as well. So I think there needs to be more emphasis on putting meat and potatoes in the actual multiplayer. Right now, there's not enough here, in my opinion, to warrant to call it Overwatch 2. It should have just been a free update, and I think everybody would have been okay with that. I'm not mad at it. I don't understand like some of the hate that it's been getting, but I'm not particularly fond of it. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, so I'm the only one in here that did not get a chance to play. I didn't win a code, so I didn't get to play it, but I was watching everybody else play, and from a general consumer point, if you know nothing about Overwatch other than what the game is, you're seeing everyone call this Overwatch 2 and you're seeing people play the beta. How would you even know that this is an update or a new game, which it isn't a new game? That's the most confusing part. And I think that that's just what's convoluting everyone's brains. They're like, why is it called Overwatch 2 if it looks exactly like Overwatch? And if you don't know what changes that they made, if you didn't look at any notes, or if you weren't, smart enough to see the changes. But again, I'm talking from a casual standpoint, so you probably wouldn't know that 6v6 went to 5v5 and they, and there's only one tank. Like, those are aspects that, again, what T-Bates was going to, those are things that the pro players know, and those are the things that the above average players that have been playing Overwatch for a while know. But just to a casual person, you see Overwatch 2, and then you're seeing that it looks almost exactly the same, has one new character, has one new game mode. Why not just make it a free update? I feel like it was actually the worst idea to call it Overwatch.
I agree with you
from a marketing standpoint. Like, that's the part that really just gets me. I feel like if they were going to call it Overwatch 2, they should have just waited until the PvE aspect came out and just make that totally separate, and then make Overwatch, just make the PvP aspect, just make that an update, and then just continue to make it like a live service game, like Activision is doing for Warzone. Like, just do that. I think that would have been a better route, and I think that's what's really getting to people. That's what's really crawling to people's skin, is just the fact that, like, you're calling this Overwatch 2. We don't really see too many updates right now. We just see one new person and some gameplay aspects that, again, the casual person wouldn't know. And I think that's what's really getting to people. And then I also saw another thing that literally after the first week, when all the big streamers were playing it, and then you can get the drops, like the Twitch viewer count, like for Overwatch period, dropped like significantly. So I know that everybody gets the hype. They're like, oh, I want to play this, I want to play this, I want to play this because it's a new game. And then the next week comes, and then you just see the significant drop. You just see people go back to whatever they were playing, and you see people going back to view the other games that they were viewing at first. So I don't know if this was necessarily the best thing to do for them, but I guess we'll see. I'm excited about the PvE though.
The counter argument to what you would say, a lot of people would be like, well, you can't use Twitch or YouTube as a metric to determine how popular a game is, because on Twitch, PUBG is not popular, but it's still one of the biggest games in the world because emerging markets are playing it, especially on mobile. But I do feel like that argument is fair for Overwatch 2 because viewership is such an important component because of that esports segment of it. The fact that people don't want to watch it. Like, I knew this game had a serious problem when I was streaming it, and literally more than half the chat was like, yo, TBH, you're back on Overwatch? And I kept having to repeat myself, this is Overwatch 2. And I wasn't trying to be funny. The fact that, like, this game can't pass the eye test, that matters. And I think they're going to have an uphill battle if they don't find a way to show that they're a better way of articulating what's different about this game. Now, can I ask you how you feel about it, Ethos?
Oh, sure. Yes, sure, buddy. I would love to give you my opinion now.
Contribute your goddamn 35.
Yeah, let me contribute my 35. I agree. I don't feel like there's enough here to warrant the sequel name. I think back at a lot of the games that we played, like, sequel wise, it's like gave themselves like the number 2, like looking at, like, I say, like, what felt kind of similar to this, but still in retrospect still feels like a mile longer, is like when Destiny went from 1 to 2. And I remember this was like something that was popping up where some people were like, I can't tell the difference between D1 and D2, like when it was in beta. But I mean, now it's like night and day different now. Like, so like I don't know. I really think it's less of all of this, like the graphical appearance stuff like that. I just think that the Overwatch formula is kind of stale. Like, I just don't think people are excited for it. Like, we've had, like, when Overwatch 1 came out, like, it was exciting because we didn't have this concept of hero shooters as, like, mainstream as it is now, right? Like, now, like, every other type of game, it had, like, some sort of hero shooter type of, like, vibe, or was experimenting with hero shooter, like, mechanics. Like, oh, you're gonna play these cool characters, and they have abilities and stuff. Like, most, like, like, Black Ops Call of Duty went through that phase. They did it, right after Overwatch. They did it with Black Ops 3, and a bunch of other shooters started to copy that formula too, because Overwatch was the popular kid. But I think a match of, like, the formula's kind of gotten stale, and what you expect from a sequel is usually, like, you go into the back end and you really start twisting and changing some, like, a lot of mechanics. But it feels like a lot of it is like what, like, GB said, it was just like it feels like the core of the game is still the same. It's just we're changing like numbers around. We're changing like how many people are playing on the maps, but the maps are ultimately from a design standpoint still the same. You know, we have a push game mode, but it doesn't really get me excited when I play it. I'm just like, okay, cool, another game mode. And we have some new maps, but you know, these are maps that just like, I don't really feel something really different about them that I would have not seen in Overwatch 1, right? Like adding weather effects and, oh, we made shiny new models only does like so much. When you like compared to like what I think people really want is like what mechanical like stuff are you doing? And yeah, you can add new characters. Yeah, there's different new characters. Like I've played it. Like Orisa is totally different. Like Orisa's a monster now. And like Doomfist is a monster now too.
Yeah,
so like,
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, but like for like what JG was saying, but for an average consumer, they don't see that. They just see, oh, you know, horse tank and
horse lady's back.
Dude, yeah, horse lady's the same, and black dude that jumps in the air and meteor strikes. They're both back, and they had little tweaks, but it's still the same character. And I think like, yeah, if they had come out and been like, okay, we've got 5 new heroes, or maybe if they had come out and been like, okay, there's a whole brand new cast of characters, then I think it would have warranted like the number 2. People would have been like, okay, this is different because I'm seeing new characters. But majority of the cast is the same, and a lot of the characters are still mechanically the same outside of like they got a roll passive or we move this thing around, and only really I'd say like 3 to 4 of the like 16-20 characters actually mechanically feel different. The rest of them still feel the same with just little tweaks here and there. So
I was just gonna say, like, you know, if they firstly to kind of go to the marketing thing, like that's purely what it was to me, money. At least. Because I remember working BlizzCon. I was doing Overwatch World Cup at the time, and that was around the time where the Hong Kong situation had come about. And that was also the year, if I'm correct, that they did announce Overwatch 2. And a lot of people felt like that they were announcing that, you know, to like you push the controversies to the side. And obviously that wasn't necessarily the case. Obviously it did help them, but I know that they were like building that up for about a year or 2 now. But it wasn't, I always understood it as just like the next significant update to Overwatch, because back when I first started working the game 6 years ago, you know, like what was told to me was that Overwatch, and this came directly from, you know, like head execs at Blizzard and the devs at Team 4, was that Overwatch was going to be the brand, and that everything just fell kind of like Warzone.
Yeah,
right.
It's this brand. It's just Overwatch.
It's just the brand, and everything falls under it, you know. And then they'll update it with a new thing, because they had said that was the issue with Destiny 2, because that there wasn't enough from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 to like convince people that this is new, right? And you know, so that was like a Activision thing apparently, and then they've since like obviously gone away from it. But it happens, and then you're like, okay, cool, what else is coming? Like, you don't even get like reworks for Soldier 76. You don't get any reworks for Tracer. You got reworks for Orisa. Like, if everyone had a rework, maybe I'd be like, okay, then this is justifiable. The other thing that really screws them here is that the character models are Overwatch 1 character models, because the Overwatch 2 character models are not done yet. So that is another part of the problem, because the guns are supposed to look different. The sound effects are the Overwatch 2 sound effects.
Sounds good. The sound is good.
Like Soldier 76's gun sounds freaking incredible. Whenever Cassidy, or formerly McCree, like shoots the revolver, it got a lot of bass to it. It sounds awesome. But they have to release the skins. And literally the only reason why we're able to do this right now and play it is because of the Overwatch League. So I do think that it's like they shot themselves in the foot. I mean, to be fair, Blizzard, as much as I love Overwatch,
been doing that.
their feet are just Swiss cheese at this point. They have shot themselves in the foot so many times. I mean, even with the formation of the Overwatch League, they shot themselves in the foot. So it's really just, you know, it's unfortunate. It's still a fun game to play. It's just that if you've played it before, you know what to expect. There's really nothing different there.
The example I can think of off the top of my head that was a good example for like what I mean when I say it has to pass the eye test when it comes to sequels for like casuals. I believe it was E3. I don't know if you guys remember, but was it Assassin's Creed 1? Decent game, but it was a little undercooked. And then they revealed Assassin's Creed 3, I believe, at the E3 that year. And there was a specific moment where Ezio was like climbing on the edge, and then he stabbed the dude and pulled him down. we hadn't seen that before. I said, oh my God, I'm pre-ordering this game.
Right.
Like that simple mechanic right there. I was like, that completely changes the stealth mechanics of because before you had to literally walk up and like poke somebody. Basically the wall, the running on the roofs was just to just get from point A to B. But now it was an asset to actually helping you become more of an assassin. And that's what I mean when I say you got to put something in there that's very tangible for people to simply understand, oh, this is a completely different game. And I think Overwatch 2 missed that ship. It's not too late to call it just an Overwatch update. Let's call it.
I would straight up, if I was Blizzard, I would just say can the 2, call it Overwatch, push 2's branch into Overwatch and say, hey, we're going to be on Overwatch. Like, just let people know. Just be like, hey, it's not finished. It's definitely not finished, but this is like people want to play. Because I've not heard anyone, even from the pro scene or just people who are into the game, say that like they want to go back to Overwatch 1, which I guess that's a positive, is that your changes are positively being received. That like there are people who are like, yeah, I'd rather take Overwatch 2's meta and form of characters and how Overwatch 1 was, because you do have, it could have been worse. It could have been the Destiny situation where people hated how 2 first was designed and wanted to go back to 1. So I guess that's like a positive. They did something right. But I think like they just should, if they wanted to 2, they would have done more. But me, I'd agree. I think they just take the L on it, just say, hey, you know what? Screw it. We listen to our fans' feedback. It's just Overwatch. That's the name of the franchise. It's just Overwatch.
Well, it doesn't help that it's confusing on the launcher as well, by the way, because Overwatch is going to like
Overwatch.
So like it's on Overwatch. Even when you go on Twitch, it's Overwatch. It's not Overwatch 2. It's just like it's so super confusing, man.
I didn't think I had the beta. Now that you brought that up, I didn't know you had to switch the thing for a while.
And that's another example of how they're mixed messaging. They're saying one thing, it's a sequel, but they're using all the OG stuff.
I think the proper way to market this, to set the expectations correctly, would be call it Overwatch with like a subtitle, especially because there's going to be a PvP story,
like Halo Infinite, you know.
Overwatch, Genji's Revenge. So then people know this is not a new game. This is not a new game, but it's more of an expansion. You know.
Like, does anyone know, are they going to just ultimately sunset like Overwatch? And I'm saying they will quote fingers. Are they going to sunset this once Overwatch 2 becomes the thing?
Yes. Overwatch as a game will not exist anymore. But I believe 6v6 will still be a playlist option in Overwatch 2. And then, you know, maybe they'll add some variety to the maps, because the other thing that they did was like they changed a lot of the time of days for the maps, which I don't know, to me just seems like you could have just done that. You could have done that when the game came out, bro, you know. Like that's just a skybox issue. You're just changing the skybox. But hell if I know. I don't know art in games, and it's Blizzard, so you know they take 5 years to like settle on even like a toenail design.
Yes, sir. Well, there you have it. How is the Overwatch beta still going?
Yeah, I played it today.
So the 17th.
The 17th?
17th, yeah.
We are recording this podcast on May 7th, so I mean, you still got 10 days to play it. If you got access. If you got, if you got it. Good luck. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the moment you all have been waiting for. Why everybody is waiting in the Discord stage, listening live. If you are, join the Discord, patreon.com/GI updates, $10 tier. One-time fee. You don't have to keep, repaying if you can't afford it. We understand.